Geez, Sam, man, look at you, you're huge. Looks like you've been taking your vitamins. Well, you can't be here to kill me because you know I follow all the rules of Halloween, bud. So in that case, does that mean you want me to explain the rules of Halloween so everyone knows how to celebrate it right? Well, in that case, come on in. Glad to have you, man. Hi everyone, welcome to FoundFlix. The Halloween season is officially upon us, and that means it's time to bust out those yearly must-watch movies to set the mood of the season, even though it's technically Halloween all year around these parts. And one of my absolute favorites is 2007's Trick or Treat, the interwoven anthology that cleverly subverts many tropes of the horror genre with its 5 different stories, along with teaching us the important rules and traditions of the holiday. Unfolding on Halloween night in the small town of Warren Valley, Ohio, this particular Halloween has an unexpected visitor to help the town follow these rules. The child-sized burlap sack pajama-clad demon Sam, who pops up in each of the stories as a kind of overwatcher or observer, a sort of ambassador of the holiday. The character was an instant horror icon, and it's partially thanks to him that the movie is so good, but it's also creative in the way it tells each of its stories. Rather than one after another, almost like a collection of shorts, Trick or Treat zigzags between the stories, as well as jumping back and forth in time over the night, eventually even the stories connecting together in surprising ways. And it's this structure that makes the movie more unique and helps it stand on its own when compared to other anthologies. But this also makes things a bit harder to follow, as we constantly move between each story, and it can be difficult to see how everything comes together and how everything connects. So let's kick the Halloween season off with Trick or Treat, breaking down the film's various stories, the ever-important rules of Halloween, as well as explaining the ending which brings all of our stories full circle. The first shot of the film is actually also chronologically the end of our separate stories, colliding all together at once. Rhonda passing by with a wagon, almost getting hit by a car full of werewolf girls, then focusing in on our first story, meeting the couple of Henry and Emma, who are coming from a big party downtown. Emma is ready to call it a night and wants to take down the decorations in the yard, but Henry argues not to, calling it tradition. She's adamant though, sending Henry inside and beginning to dismantle things. She should have listened to Henry though, as making sure to leave your decorations up all night is one of those rules of Halloween, which she is about to find out the hard way. Removing the sheets from Ghost, Sam pops out of a box covered in a sheet, attacking her, then jamming his signature broken jack-o'-lantern lollipop into her mouth, leaving her to be found by Henry later. Sorry Emma, gotta follow those rules. After the opening sequence, we go back to earlier in the evening. The downtown square is hopping, full of Halloween revelers all in costume. But not everyone is ready for the night out, meeting a group of girls in a shop trying on costumes. In the dressing rooms, we overhear them talking about how they do this every year, making mention of fresh meat, all while being watched by a peeping Tom kid, played by the same child actor that also plays Sam. The girls all step out in their costumes, each one a sexed up version of a fairy tale princess, making fun of that whole idea of unnecessarily and inappropriately turning every costume sexual. But one other group, Lori, is hesitant to come out, them teasing her with the lines by the wolf and 3 little pigs about huffing and puffing and blowing their house down. She sheepishly steps out, revealing her dressed as Little Red Riding Hood. One of the rules is to always wear a costume. Halloween is the one day where we dress up and become someone we aren't. The movie plays with this idea in many of the stories. Often the costumes worn are the opposite of the person's true self. The girls walk into the crowded streets, even bumping into Emma and Henry along the way, and it becomes clear from the girls' conversations that Lori is a virgin, but they're not referring to it in the sense that we're thinking of. As in this case, it means that Lori has yet to have her first kill. The girls are werewolves, and all of their talk of men and Lori wanting her first time to be special is about killing rather than anything sexual. Lori's friends are quick to pick up their own prey in the form of the local news crew and take off with them, leaving Lori by herself to find a date of her own. Elsewhere in town, a pudgy troublemaker, face smeared in chocolate, makes his way down a neighborhood street, knocking down every jack-o'-lantern he passes. He arrives at a house without the lights on, which typically means that they aren't actively participating in the holiday, and usually leave a bowl of candy out on the porch. Here, the bowl is marked to help yourself to one piece, but with no one around to enforce this, the kid greedily empties the entire bowl into his bag. It turns out someone is around, Principal Wilkins, who catches the boy red-handed and asks him to stay for a chat. They take his seat on the front steps, Wilkins noticing pulp on the boy's foot from smashing pumpkins, saying he used to be like him himself until his dad taught him to respect the night. Wilkins, like Sam, is all about upholding the important traditions of the holidays, believing that these traditions are in fact to protect us from evil, but feels no one cares about it nowadays. While Wilkins does follow the rules, he does so in a twisted way, and thusly doesn't correctly represent the holiday. And now the kid who didn't respect the night's rules either is about to learn another one. Always check your candy, Wilkins warns, and the kid starts to violently erupt, vomiting a chocolate goo fountain. A lot of vomiting. He passes out on Wilkins' lap, who drags him inside, getting filthy in the process. Before he can get too far, the doorbell rings. A trio of trick-or-treaters who play into a later story, asking Wilkins if they can have his pumpkins. The kids take off, the pirate one definitely suspecting something is wrong on the way out. But Sam, seen for the first time here, is left standing there alone. Pretty creepy introduction to him. Like, where the heck did this kid come from? And what is he gonna do? But he merely takes a candy bar and rushes off, hearing the sounds of a cat in his sack as he goes down the stairs. Wilkins returns to taking care of the kid's body, but keeps getting interrupted by his mop-headed son Billy screaming down from the window inside, drawing attention to what he's doing from the neighbor's dog. Wilkins severs a finger, tossing it to the dog as a treat, but brings his owner, the curmudgeonly Mr. Krieg, outside, yelling out to Wilkins and trying to peek through the fence to see what he's doing. He blames it on a busted septic tank, which is good enough to send Krieg away. But then his kid starts screaming down at him again, yelling he wishes mommy was still alive. And from the grave he puts the kid in, it does look like there's another body in there with him. Is this his wife that Wilkins also murdered? That's pretty hardcore if so. As he heads back inside, he catches Krieg at his window calling out for help. "Screw you," he utters, walking in, and seeing a blur of Sam taking him to the ground, tying together with his story much later. Inside, it initially is presented that Wilkins is going to kill his son, who is pretty annoying. Billy naively sits there as his father approaches behind him with a knife, stabbing it down, coming up with blood on the blade. "Oh no, Billy!" But he's fine. It's actually the pudgy kid's head who he stabbed, whose head is acting as a demented jack-o'-lantern for these two weirdos. Obviously, Wilkins is a serial killer in some capacity and already is grooming his boy to take on the family trade. We then enter our next segment featuring the same group of kids seen at Wilkins, trick-or-treating at another house, where there is one heck of a party going on. Their teacher dressed as a cat even offering them to come inside and have a drink, which they wisely decline. And it turns out she too is a werewolf like the other girls as seen later. Another kid in a skull mask, Schrader, joins them with a cart full of pumpkins, asking if they have enough yet. Almost, Macy decides, making a final stop at the socially awkward girl Rhonda's house, her yard filled with pumpkins all over the dang place. It isn't revealed yet, but the reason behind this is that they are playing a prank on poor Rhonda. Based on her being the most aggressive about the plan, it seems that Macy selected Rhonda specifically, just because she's weird or whatever, I guess, and showing that her costume of an angel isn't exactly who she actually is, which is a big fat meanie. Before seeing her trick in action, we return to the big party going on downtown, meeting another potential monster in the night, entering into a steamy alley where a couple is getting hot and heavy. A man in a mask is getting a bit too intense and bites her neck. Whoa, looks like we got a vampire in town too. She runs back to the main square, the sound of the parade drowning out her screams, and the blood covering her seeming normal with others in the crowd. She reaches out to Emma and Henry for help, but he dismisses her as probably being drunk and moving on. Behind her, the masked man appears, taking her and killing her, leaving her bloodied corpse on the streets. Thanks for the help, Henry and Emma. Jeez. We pick up with the kids having their own Charlie Brown Halloween moment, walking in a line through an ominous pumpkin patch. This particular segment being my favorite and certainly most frightening of the film, when their prank winds up having deadly consequences. They reach their destination, an abandoned rock quarry, looking over to a long drop, fog obscuring the bottom. The others wondering what it is they're doing here. Macy explains it's to pay respects to the dead, telling of a local legend of something that happened 30 years ago in this very spot. On that Halloween afternoon, a school bus full of unusual children wearing dodgy masks, described as troubled and disturbed, were driven to a school far out of town every day, their parents ashamed of their own children. But this day, the driver took a different path, driving by Sam sitting on the side of the road. Instead of taking the kids home as usual, the driver took them to this abandoned rock quarry. The parents had grown tired and embarrassed of their children, and pooled money together to offer the driver to get rid of them. He stops the bus at the edge of the quarry, handing out candy to each of the children, and checking their wrist restraints, ensuring they can't escape their fates. But one boy in a Dracula mask becomes agitated and gets free, taking the wheel of the bus, driving it over the edge of the cliff and plummeting into a lake below. The legend goes the driver was never heard from again, though did survive, seen pulling himself out of the water heaving. As for the bus, it's said to still be at the bottom of the lake, along with the 8 kids' bodies who perished in the crash, which is why the kids were collecting those jack-o'-lanterns, bringing along 8 pumpkins as stand-ins for each soul lost, leaving them as an offering for those that died. Utilizing a precarious-looking elevator, they leave Rhonda alone with the pirate kid to enact the final stage of their prank. As Rhonda and the pirate kid descend slowly down the elevator, they spot the kids and the light of their jack-o'-lanterns, until one screams for help, her light suddenly going out. The last one snuffed out just as they reach the bottom. Properly scared, they call out to the others, but there's no sign of them. Rhonda bravely unlocks the door, stepping out, leaving the pirate kid behind, telling him the candles will protect him. Approaching the lake, she is greeted by a haunting sight. The bus from 30 years ago still sticking half out of the water, along with the kids' masks beginning to pop up on the surface in front of her. Reaching out for one, a hand emerges from the earth for her, as more ghouls appear, and another is seen chomping away on the pirate kid's guts, chasing a terrified Rhonda who falls into a hole after losing her glasses. The ghouls remove their masks, revealing it's just the kids. It was all just a prank to scare Rhonda, but they definitely went way too far, even though Macy is delighted with the outcome. But if it was all just a joke, then how was the bus there? Because that part of the story was true. Indeed, all of it was, as they discover. When real ghouls show up, the spirits of the kids on the bus, their respective masks, now the creatures they become. Chains fling out, grabbing Sarah, dragging her back to them. The tables turned, the 3 make it to the elevator, pleading with Rhonda inside to let them in. The ghoul kids right behind them. She considers instead pressing the up button, the elevator ascending, leaving the others to die, waving goodbye to them. Well, that'll sure teach them for playing a trick. Since Rhonda was the subject of the trick and also keeps Halloween's traditions alive, she is spared from death, as Sam does not attack her, merely watching nearby in a tunnel, hearing the other kids being torn apart, accompanied by their anguished screams below. This was surprising because it's pretty uncommon for kids to actually be killed in horror movies, so I gotta give credit to Doherty here for following through here. It makes the entire segment have a much more terrifying edge to it, since no one is safe if they don't respect the day, and in this case, in particular, the dead, because this is the one night the dead can come back. We then pick up back with Lori, heading to join the other girls at their party in the woods, all alone. Another of the rules, never head out at night alone, and the scene along with her entire story is presented in a way that we are supposed to believe that she is the helpless victim. Here, even more so, pretty much recreating a scene right out of Little Red Riding Hood. The man in the mask appears in the forest, having been stalking her since seeing her at the square, treated as the wolf to her Red Riding Hood, going through the "my, what big eyes you have" quote before biting down on her neck, Lori screaming out. And when a wrapped up body drops down from the trees at the party with the rest of the girls, they're worried that it's Lori inside, but it's the masked man, begging for help as Lori enters. We then learn the man's identity, and that he was only pretending to be a vampire. One of their friends removing his fake fangs, then his mask. It's a mortified Wilkins underneath who asks who they are. Don't worry, you'll see for yourself in a moment, seeing the bodies of others strewn around, including the news crew guys picked up by the girls earlier. Getting on top of Wilkins, Lori coyly plays with him, saying it's her first time, and the girls start to get all weird and ritualistic, dancing and shedding their clothes, then sloughing off their skin as well, revealing their true forms as werewolves. Lori bites Wilkins' neck, all watched by Sam approvingly sitting on a log nearby. The idea here being another subversion of the girls, who are normally portrayed as helpless victims, but in this case it turns out they are the real threat, and those like Wilkins who only pretend to be monsters is witness to what a real monster looks like, paying the price with his life. He did kind of deserve it for killing all those other people though, even if he was a true believer in the holiday. Jumping again back to earlier, around the time of Wilkins burying the kid in his yard, we see what was going on next door at the same time. 3 geeky kids come up to a derelict house. They still knock on the door, swinging open to darkness, and then 2 green glowing eyes appear, lunging after them and growling, sending the kids off screaming into the streets. But it was just Krieg's tiny dog with lights on its head, which is a pretty good prank, old man. Back inside, Krieg sets fire to a box of old photos, which we don't see the specifics of yet, and he takes a seat, retrieving a candy bar from one of the kids' sacks, and takes a bite, disgusted. The candy must be from one of Wilkins' special poison batches. He hears banging nearby and goes to the front window to investigate, and an egg explodes onto his window, a figure running by giggling like a child. Looks like Sam is here with a few tricks of his own. Krieg follows his dog's barks into the backyard, connecting to the previous interaction he had with Wilkins when he was burying the kid, now seen from Krieg's perspective. Another noise draws him back to the front of the house, where he's greeted to a yard suddenly full of jack-o'-lanterns. Apparently Sam must have raided the display at Rhonda's house. An angered Krieg is about to smash a pumpkin until Spike's barking sends him back inside, seeing the doggy door still swinging. Uh-oh, Sam is in the house, Retrieving a shotgun, he catches a glimpse of him running upstairs, followed by the sound of his dog yowling in pain. Oh, poor puppers! Entering the bedroom, there's movement under the sheets, and when pulled off, it's just a robot mummy hand. Then a jack-o'-lantern nearby engulfs in flames, revealing messages from Sam scrawled all over the ceiling and walls. Distracted by the display, Sam reaches out from underneath the bed, slashing the back of Krieg's heel with a razor sticking out of a candy bar. Krieg fires, hitting the flaming pumpkin, and Sam disappears. He hobbles through the halls, landing on another of Sam's traps, candy scattered all over the floor, sending him tumbling down the stairs. And it's not just candy on the floor, but shards of glass as well, seen protruding from Krieg's wounds. This Sam guy is pretty twisted. Krieg struggles to unlock the mini locks on his front door, each movement painful thanks to the glass in his skin. Unbeknownst to him, Sam crawls on the ceiling towards him, squealing and leaping onto him. Krieg slams him into the wall, getting him off, and goes to the window shouting to Wilkins for help, who we know isn't going to, as Sam tackles him. Krieg struggles, tugging at his mask and pulling it off, seeing his real face, which is a weird looking pumpkin demon kind of thing. Krieg pushes him off once again, and Sam bites his leg, gnawing at it. He gets a point blank shot right into Sam, the impact blowing him clear across the floor, sliding all the way to the front door. Sam not moving, Krieg shoots him in the chest, pumpkin guts exploding out. So he's actually made out of a pumpkin, which is pretty amazing. Then blows off his hand too for good measure. Take that, you little shit! Of course that's not gonna put Sam down for good. Krieg calls 911 until the phone cord is ripped out of the wall and gets stabbed in the foot by Sam's disembodied hand. He kicks it away, going for his gun, but is out of bullets. Watching as the hand crawls back to Sam, fusing back onto his body good as new, and retrieves his mask, putting it back on, going for a fresh jack-o'-lantern lollipop and biting off the corner. He lifts the jagged lollipop and stabs it into his chest. To Krieg's relief, it only pierced a candy bar that was in his pocket. Sam taking a bite and walking away, turning back and staring once more before leaving. The door whooshing open on its own, and he's gone, leaving Krieg utterly baffled as to what just happened. And now we see the photo he was burning in the fire, a picture of the group of kids from the town's legend, and the bus driver that was paid to kill them, making the connection clear that Krieg and the bus driver 30 years ago are one and the same. We do see that his experience with Sam has begrudgingly forced him into properly celebrating the holiday. Instead of scaring trick-or-treaters that show up later, he dutifully hands out candy from an arm sling. He looks out into the street, this moment connecting all the way back to the opening sequence where all of our stories collide at once. Next door, Wilkins' son is wearing his father's outfit, handing out more of his poison candy, while Rhonda walks through the streets, almost getting hit by the werewolf girls. Krieg then seeing Sam standing down the street, and something catches his attention. The couple Henry and Emma from the opening returning home. He overhears the same argument about Emma wanting to take down the decorations, and now Sam has his next target, sending him over to teach Emma a lesson about following the rules. Everything coming chronologically full circle back to the opening sequence. But in a final ending button, even though Krieg did learn his lesson from Sam, there's still the lingering issues of those kids he killed 30 years ago. And guess who shows up moments later at his doorstep? The kids, now undead ghouls. The one in the Dracula mask croaking trick or treat before they kill him as revenge for what he did all those years ago. If you want to make sure you don't wind up like Krieg here, you gotta follow the rules. Here's the 4 most important ones. Always wear a costume. Always pass out treats. Never blow out a jack-o'-lantern. And always check your candy. Simple enough. With that, we have reached the conclusion of this ending explained for Trick or Treat. Hopefully you guys are paying attention and will make sure to follow the rules and respect the holiday, or else you might end up getting a visit from Sam. So stay safe and spooky out there, kids. Happy Halloween! And don't forget you can send me video requests for movies or TV shows you'd like to see me explain by sending them my way on any of my social media accounts at FoundFlix. What do you guys think of Trick or Treat and its ending? Which of the stories is your favorite? And which Halloween movies do you have to watch every year to get the holiday going? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Thanks for watching FoundFlix. See you next time.